Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Stronger Marriage Podcast. We are glad you joined Trey and Lee today from the metropolis of Childress, Texas.
The metropolis of Childress, Texas. Hey, guys.
All 6,000 people. Everybody, I hope, had a good week and is doing well. We got Valentine's Day coming up. We're hoping that you're making some plans and thinking about what you might do with your spouse. We think it's important that you do something for Valentine's Day, and maybe next week we can talk about that. Ideas, thoughts. Oh, that's a good idea.
I think that's a great
I'm going to stop right here talking about Valentine's Day so we can save that next week.
That's right.
So it is something we think that everybody should participate in one form or a fashion. We'll talk about that more next week. That's a good deal. We're honored that you listen. We're going to do a couple of new things start this week and try to do these on a regular basis. We're going to read one of our reader reviews to you that's left us a nice review on our podcast. And we appreciate Lene giving us a shout out. And she's left us a 5-star review over on Apple's podcast. And she is very, very kind. And then we're going to close this session each week with a reader question. And we've got a good question this week that we'll read. But Lee, take a second and let everybody know what Lene wrote and her kind words about the podcast.
So Lene said, "This is so helpful for all ages and stages of marriage. Love, love, love this podcast. One of my top ones. I've been listening to the Stronger Marriage Podcast since the pandemic started, and this has helped me in my marriage. I love how the advice they give is so practical and just a gentle reminder for what we need. Also love how the notes are written out just in case I missed it. They are so cute on the way they love each other, and it really shows through. May God continue to bless your guys' marriage." So that's awesome. If you're a new listener, we hope this review will kind of help you to give us a try.
Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and listen each Wednesday. We post on Wednesdays is kind of what our goal is to do. I have talked to listeners this week from Africa, which I thought was cool, and from England, I thought was also cool, that listened to our podcast.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, don't you know that they think our accent is really
bizarre?
Yeah, you know that somebody in England or Africa probably listened to us thinking, who are these people? Listen to that. What is a y'all, you know? And
I bet we do. We slur so many of our words together.
Yeah.
That probably is a little
challenging
for some people to understand us.
We need little words at the bottom of our podcast. So
subtitles.
That's it. Yes, we do. That just kind of help and everything else. But we're glad y'all are here, and thank you for that kind review. And if you are listening on a site that allows you to do that, we would love a good reviews. It just doesn't help us. We're not getting anything out of this. It just moves our podcast up a little bit to help other people find it when they're searching for something on marriage.
Just to get some healthy material out there to other listeners.
Yep, you guys do a good job helping us spread the word about healthy marriages and have healthy marriages. So today's podcast I'm excited about because it's kind of interesting. We've got an interesting title and topic. You know, we throw out marriage advice. We throw out marriage tips on social media and on podcasts. But there are some very underrated marriage tips and marriage advice out there. Meaning, they're things that a lot of times we ask, "What's the best marriage advice you got?" And we get the same top ones like "Don't go to bed angry," and some of those. But there are a few things that we think sometimes people don't catch that we feel like are very underrated marriage tips that people need to hear, that we hear people go, "When I started doing this, it really changed my marriage." And we've got 5 or 6 of those really underrated marriage tips that we want to go through and talk about that may change your marriage and make it much, much better if you go, "Hey, I never thought about that. I want to try that." And so we're going to cover some of those today on some underrated marriage tips with Trey and Lee.
There you go. So you want me to kick us off?
Kick us off. Tell us what number 1 would be.
So the first one, this came to us from a friend of ours, KP, Eric Kirkpatrick. We call him KP. You were doing our oldest son's wedding and officiating that. Mm-hmm. And so you asked several buddies that you and Taylor both knew Give me some good marriage advice for Taylor that I can share during their wedding vows.
Something that works for you that you can share with him.
Practical marriage advice. And man, you got some good stuff. Their wedding ceremony was one of my favorites that I've ever. Yeah, it was so good. Just great. Anyway, so KP, his advice was, no matter what it is you're doing, always include your wife and ask her if she wants to go. Don't assume she knows and that she's welcome to go. Ask her.
So explain this. You mean explain that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what that means is, and this is a great idea, is there's a lot of times I'll go do something or Lee will go do something and we just automatically think they're not going to want to go with me. Or I can go, hey, I'm going to run to the gym, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to do this or that. And instead of just automatically going, well, she's busy, she don't want to go today, always invite your spouse to go with you. Even if you think they don't want to go, and even if they don't want to go, it helps them to know, I would have loved for you to come if you're up for it. You're included if you want to come.
That's right. And you may have invited her umpteen dozen times, and she may have told you no umpteen dozen times, that is not anything she wants to do and that she's not interested in that. But one day she might just surprise you and say, yeah, I'd like to go do that.
That's right.
Or maybe if you just ask her enough times, she'll finally give in.
That's it. But even if she and this is for the men or the ladies too. But even if you think she doesn't want to go, and maybe she doesn't want to go, at least she knows he would have loved if I would have gone. He would have been okay including me. He's not leaving me out.
Right.
He would have loved to hang out with me. It makes me feel like I'm a part of his life, and he wants me a part of his life, even though I don't want to go.
Yeah, I think just a common courtesy. I think you could look at it as a sign of affection. Mm-hmm. Just that invitation is a sign of affection, I think. And affection is very important for women.
So I do that. We've done that before. There's a lot of times when our youngest son was home before he left for college, he and I would, a lot of evenings just before dark, would go out and hit a friend's fishing pond in Texas. Okay, I'm going to help these folks in Africa and England and something. We call these tanks. I know that don't make sense to a lot of folks. They're just called a fishing tank, but it's a little fishing pond that they stock full of fish. And Cooper and I would take off a lot of times and go. We would go fish for a while, and many times I had no doubt Lee was going to say no. Now she'd have surprised me if she'd have said yes, but there was many times I said, "Hey, you want to go with us?" And she'd go, "No, y'all go ahead without us." But it was my way of making her know she is always welcome to come when she wants to. We are not leaving her out.
That's right.
And so that's good.
It did. It made me feel good that y'all would invite me, and secretly inside I was thinking, yes, I get an hour to myself.
That's good. So, and for the ladies, maybe you're going to the store. You could just say, "Hey, you come go with me if you want to, but don't feel bad if he says no or whatever it is that you're doing."
Sure, this always goes. The advice works both ways.
But always make your spouse know that they're welcome to participate. They're welcome to go. You want them a part of your life, even though they may say, "No, I'm not interested in going hunting with you today or fishing with you today," or something along those lines. So that's a good idea. Good idea.
And this kind of leads into our next piece of advice. Underrated, which is spend time together without the kids.
That's it. And you can call this anything, all right? You can call this dating. You can call this whatever it is, but you've got to have time without kids. You just do. You've got to find a way. That may be sitting on the back porch or front porch. That may be after they go to bed. You be deliberate in going, we're not just going to fall asleep in our chair, but you spend time without the kids. One of the biggest, not overrated, this is not overrated at all, but one of the most important pieces of advice we have that everybody says is continue to date your spouse. We think that's underrated too because you can't overemphasize that enough. You've got to keep dating. Mm-hmm. But there are some people that will go, wait, we can't afford it. We can't do this. We can't do that. We're just talking about spending time together alone.
That's right. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate or fancy. One of the best things that we do that gives us time together, uninterrupted time together, is going on walks. And it may be, if all you can do is 10 minutes, great. We usually shoot for 30. But man, just going on a walk. If your kids are where you can, leave them in the house, if they're old enough where you can leave them in the house for a few minutes so that y'all can just go walk around the block a couple of times.
They can see you come around the block every few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we're not saying leave your little bitty kids. You know what we're saying. But yeah, that's just such great time because you're talking. You're not distracted by phones and televisions and whatever. You've got each other's undivided attention, and you can just talk, which is a great way to, keep up with what does our schedule look like? What are, just everything. You can have superficial conversation. You can have deep conversation.
That's right.
But yeah, and we've shared this before. The statistic that we found that the average couple spends 4 minutes alone together every day. That is not enough time, people. 4 minutes a day alone, just the two of you talking without distractions is not, we don't feel, is not enough time to make a relationship as healthy as it needs to be.
That's right. It is got to be you got to spend time together, and that fixes a lot of problems. And we had a guy recently that said, or I had a guy on social media that said, when you think dating fixes everything. It fixes a lot, but dating doesn't fix it. It's hard. It's hard to have a relationship with your spouse if you don't spend any time with them. You've got to build that friendship and mutual interests. And, so many people who say they have fallen out of love or we're just not close anymore. You don't fall out of love. People are falling out of friendship. Mm-hmm. My friendships with some of my closest friends that have moved aren't what they were because they're far away now. I don't spend any time with them. And so it's really, really hard to be married to someone that you're not friends with. And you do that by spending time together. Mm-hmm. And yes, family time. Family time is important, but you need to find some just you got times.
Yes.
Just some us time. As one of my favorite Texas country singers, Stoney DeRue, sings.
Yes,
us time.
For some us time.
Some us time. And I like that song.
Yeah, that's good. So take advantage of every opportunity that you have. If your kids are in school, try to eat lunch together. If your work schedules allow you to leave the office, and have enough time to go grab some lunch together or to meet at home and eat together. What else? What other suggestions you got for just trying to grab some?
Just put the kids down for bed. If you got little ones, if you got teenagers, man, go to bed early and hang out. Go to your room, shut the door for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
or something. But you talked about working out. That's one of the things we enjoy doing. It's one of the things that I think I enjoy doing. You go just out of necessity, but I love that you go with me. And going somewhere with you is a whole lot more fun than going somewhere without you.
Well, it's a shared interest, and that is part of building a friendship, is having as many shared interests as possible with one another.
And we have learned to find new interests, meaning I've learned to like some things that you've liked. You have learned to like things that I've liked. But it is all about spending time together. Mm-hmm. And, you can't always go, you just go ahead. Sometimes it's like, if this will give us some time together. I went a few years ago with you on your birthday. You went junking at a flea market in South Texas, and that's usually a girl trip you go on, and you invited me, and I said, yeah, I'll go. We'll spend. And I told myself ahead of time, I'm going to go. I'm going to have fun. I'm not going to gripe.
Gave yourself a pep talk.
I pep talked myself the whole time, and I had a great time. It was a lot more fun than I thought. I told you, I said, I'm going to carry everything you want to buy. I will encourage you to buy. I'm going to be the best husband with the best attitude this whole time, and we just had a great time. A great time. And I learned that it can be fun doing things that your wife likes to do, and we got to hang out and build friendship that weekend.
That's right. So, yes, big piece of advice, spend time together. Spend as much time together as you can manage.
Yeah. So, okay, here comes number 3.
That kind of leads into the next
one.
This
is my favorite, and it's going to be simple, but it's one of my favorite, and I don't think couples do this enough. Throw this out there.
Go to bed at the same time. Go to bed at the same time. This
that sounds
was
crazy.
something that we did not always do well together.
No, because
Well, I'm a night owl, and
that's it. I'm a 10 o'clock, and I'm wiped out.
you start falling asleep in your chair at 9, and I'm getting my second wind. So
That's right. And you would oftentimes go, that's when I stay up and,
Right.
do this or do that or something. But we have learned that going to bed at the same time is very healthy for our marriage, because that's a lot of times we have some quiet pillow conversations in the dark. And we're not talking, I'm talking actually like real conversations. People.
But you have to make sure that I have to make sure you're not too sleepy, because you used to fall
Yeah.
asleep on me whenever
Yeah, we get, but
we'd go to bed and you were really tired, and I'd think, oh, it's time we can talk to each other, because we'd had little kids during that time, and we didn't get a lot of adult conversation time until we did go to bed, and I'd think, oh, we get to talk now, and I'd be talking, and next thing I know, you'd be snoring.
I'm sorry.
So yeah.
Put a chair by my bed, and if you start talking, I get up and sit down.
So maybe sit up in bed and leave the lights on until you agree, okay, I got to go to sleep now.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that every night you go to have long conversations
No.
in bed, but
No.
man, it's just a special time. There are times where, now I think we do a good job with this. There's a lot of people that will tell you, and it's not a bad idea. Be careful about taking your phones to bed with you, or don't watch TV, and we kind of have our limitations of what we know and that sort of thing. But there's times we'll lay in bed looking together at Instagram at things that we, memes or things we find interesting or something. For a little while, but
Yeah.
it is healthy to go to bed
Good.
together.
It gives us time. We like to say a prayer together before we go to sleep, which is great. We've kind of done a new thing that in our marriage after
that?
we got empty nest. And we put a TV in our bedroom for
yes.
the first time ever in our marriage. We've been
Yes.
married for 32 years, and we put a TV in our bedroom for the first time just a few months ago.
And sometimes at about 9 o'clock, I go, let's go watch TV in bed.
And we get comfortable and we go watch The Office, a couple of episodes before we get ready to turn out the lights.
That's it.
We're officially old.
Yep. And so now tell me, just so folks will know, because people have different schedules, you still oftentimes don't go to sleep, although we go to bed together at the same time.
We go to bed,
So what are some options that you can do? Like, let's just say, but I'm not sleepy. I'm not going to go to bed.
That's right.
What do you do?
So we go to bed and we have our time together. And once you're like, okay, I'm toast, lights out, I'm going to sleep, then I may pick up my book that I keep next to my bedside table with my little book light that you got me.
Yep.
And I may read for an hour before I'm ready to go to sleep. Or, if I still feel like I really need to get up and fold some towels and load the dishwasher and whatever, I may go ahead and get back up out of bed and do a few things that I feel like I need to get done before morning. And that's okay. That's fine. You can get up out of bed, but at least make an effort to go to bed at the same time. Whether or not you stay in bed, that's up to you. But
I think that's a good
Yeah.
point. I know my friends Keith and Terry Riley in Searcy. I'll shout out to them. They mentioned the other day that they had picked this tip up and started doing it and loved it. This is a very underrated marriage tip. It really, really is. Now, let me tell you a quick story of some kids. Not when I say kids, some adults that were talking about their parents the other day, and they said, our dad worked a early morning shift, like he had to go to work at 4. So he went to bed sometimes at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at nighttime. And my mom didn't do that. She couldn't go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, but said, we specifically always remember Dad would say goodnight. Mom would come in and go, good night. I'm going to go to bed with Dad for a while. And then when Dad fell asleep, 30 minutes, hour later, 20 minutes, she'd get back up and come back down and help kids finish homework and do whatever it is. But said, we will never forget our mom going to bed with our dad every night, even though it was so early, because that was just kind of their time where they would spend some time together, and she would get back up, and that sort of thing. And I just thought, man, talk about some kids who left a pretty good legacy of what marriage looks like.
very healthy example. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so that's a necessity as well. Tell us another one.
don't stop making an effort to attract your spouse.
Yeah. Don't get comfortable and just going, hey, we're married. They have to love me. They said I do. And when we're talking to attract, that's physically, it's emotionally. Don't get lazy. A lot of people think my goal was to catch them, and I did. No, your goal is to keep them too. And you need to work as hard to keep your spouse as you did to win your spouse in the first place.
That's right.
And you need to do a good job of working to attract your spouse, meaning don't come in from work and take off your nice clothes and say, where are my pajama pants or my oversized hoodie? And, don't make sure your spouse doesn't always see you just dressing down. They also need to see you dressing nice.
That's right. We're not saying you can't come home and get comfortable, but
True.
You know what I'm saying. You just, like Trey said, your spouse needs to see you looking nice occasionally, so don't let them always just see you, dressing down.
Yeah. Can I put this another way real quick? If you have ever, back in the cable days, we don't do cable anymore, but back in the DirecTV, Dish, I hate to name names, just in the cable days, where they would sign you up for a couple-year contract.
Yep.
And they would woo you, and they would throw everything at you to say, please, we want you. And they give you get all these channels at this really low price, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And you're like, man, I love these people. These people are great. And you would sign that contract, and 6 months into the contract, you'd look at your bill, and price would have doubled. A lot of your channels are gone. Some of the channels you got free, you're now having to pay for. And basically what they do in the cable companies is, we're going to do a whole lot to win this person, to our customer, but then we're going to do the minimum to keep them once we got them. We're just going to barely do enough to get by and make them happy since we have them under contract. And that's just so much like some people do marriage. It's like, man, we go all out to win them. We date, and we hold hands, and we buy flowers, and we do this and this and this. And then 6 months, a couple of years into marriage, and you're just like, okay, so what's the minimum I have to do to make my wife happy? Or to make my husband happy. And that's not the way you do marriage. It's not the way you do business either. That's why all them cable companies are out of business now. But you don't do marriage that way. It will kill your marriage.
Yeah. When you were dating, when you were newly married, you dressed up for each other. You praised each other. You did little things for each other. You bought little gifts for each other. And and as far as dressing down goes, I mean, that works both ways too. Men, your wives like to see you looking nice. And if you work a job where you come home dirty and stinky every day, go take a shower first thing and put on a nice shirt or something for your wife.
Or your day off, you put on some nice clothes, or especially if you go out on a date, work hard to dress up a little bit to look nice for your spouse.
Yeah.
That's important. We got two more. Let's get these two knocked out. These are short.
Okay. Tell us what number 5 is.
Number 5 is learn your spouse's needs and then strive to meet them. Learn your spouse's needs. And that's underrated because we are trying really hard to tell people you got to know what your spouse needs. Now, that may mean you have to ask, hey, honey, what are some things in your life that you could use from me? What are some things that you like? Now, I've learned you're a acts of service girl when it comes to love languages. You're a person who loves everything. Well, domestic support falls in there. You've got certain things that I know that I've learned that you like on your needs. And so my goal is to try to meet some of those needs. You've learned my needs, and it's good to constantly remember. Now, if you're not sure what your spouse needs, it's always good to just ask, what do you need from me? And they may say, I want you to hold my hand more, or I want you to hang out with me more. But you got to learn what it is your spouse needs.
And you can't ever quit being a learner. Oh my goodness.
We have a dog, and he is riled up today.
He thinks he sees a cat or something outside.
Yeah. Hey, you get live stuff here. We don't cut.
Right.
We don't edit. Man, you get the live stuff here. This is real. This is raw.
There you go. But keep being a learner, because your spouse's needs are going to change. they may change on a daily basis. They may change on a weekly basis. They may not change for a long time, and then all of a sudden they decide, no, I don't need that as much, and I really need this now. You just got to constantly be a student of your spouse. And I think one of the things that you can do, if you can get into the habit of it, is just daily maybe ask your spouse, what can I do today to make your day a little easier? Mm-hmm. I think that's a great thing to do, and they may say, they may really have something specific that you can do to help them, and they may not have anything. But I think if your spouse asks you that, then you need to try to come up with something, to tell them. Maybe tell them, you could hug me 5 times today, and that would make my day much better.
That's it.
If they're a touch kind of person or whatever it is.
Yep, I agree. And it's just learning what your spouse needs and then striving to do that.
Yes.
Underrated tip. One more, just really, really quick, and we're not going to touch on it much, but watch for unobvious threats.
Unobvious threats. I think so. You said it earlier. Threats to marriage usually don't just come storming in and beating on your door, and they sneak in there.
Yeah. If they did, you would go, no, we ain't doing that.
That's right.
But they come in very quietly, very unassumingly, and get you a little comfortable. And then the next thing you know, you've got some issues in your marriage because some threats came in. You weren't watching for them, and you got to be paying attention. You've got to be looking for little areas, and sometimes doing some relationship checks. Are we dating like we used to? Do we talk like we used to? Do we fight more than we used to? Do we argue all the time? Those are all signs of something may need fixed somewhere. We talk about this in our book a lot, some of the threats in your marriage, and so you've got to watch out for those.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I think that all of these other 5 things that we've mentioned, if you get slack on any of them, they can be threats. I mean, they can turn into big issues if you're never spending time together, if you're never, going to bed at the same time, if you don't have a clue what your spouse needs. All of those things can really turn into big issues if you aren't careful.
So underrated marriage tips. Those were today some of the ones we think are most underrated, and we're glad you joined us. Let's do a reader question, then we'll close.
Cool.
Read the question.
Okay.
You got this?
My wife and I have been married for almost 30 years. Kids are out of the house, and we are just focused on each other. There are times that I feel our relationship has become more like friends instead of husband and wife. My wife says she is happy the way things are, and I am not. I want to make it clear she is the woman of my dreams. I wouldn't want anyone else, but I just want to get some of that spark back in our marriage.
That is a great question. And they are in a new relationship or stage of their marriage of being empty nesters. And sometimes you go into that going, man, I'm really thinking it's going to be this, and maybe your expectations weren't what they were. But did you notice he wants a better relationship with his wife, and I love that. And it's going to start by communicating that to his wife and telling her over and over and over, I would love to make things better, our relationship deeper. I want to regain some of that spark, which goes back to friendship, doing things together. And they said they're pretty good friends, but they've been roommates for a long time and probably need to go back to being soulmates. They really do. So what's a couple of things? You got any ideas that this couple could do?
You touched on it. I mean, if he hasn't specifically told her, you are my best friend, I would not want to do life with anyone else, but I really need more intimacy in our marriage. That's the first thing he needs to do is to be totally upfront and honest with her about that.
That's it. Sometimes we drop hints and we just kind of say, I'd like things to get a little bit better. And the next thing you know, they don't know what you mean by that, but right.
You've got to just be totally transparent.
That is exactly. Friendship is a part of it, and I want to be your best friends, and we are best friends, but I want to be more than best friends too. And
when you have empty nest, I mean, there is no better time than to get some spark back in your marriage, because you no longer have kids that are taking up your time. You no longer have to worry about, locking bedroom doors and all these kinds of things.
Wearing clothes around the house.
Unless it's like our house where all the windows don't have coverings. in the front part of the house. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
We still have to wear
I'm
clothes.
buying curtains tomorrow. But yeah, that's what you got to do. Work on communication. Work on a book. A marriage book would be fantastic. A marriage workshop for them would be fantastic. That would help a ton on helping them to refocus on what's important.
Yeah, getting a book on intimacy, that'd be a great
exactly right.
Valentine's gift. Buy a book on intimacy and y'all read it together.
Any book for Valentine's Day would be good. You want to bless your marriage? Get a book for Valentine's Day and say, let's do this together. I can promise you, men, if you're listening and you're going, I don't know what to get my wife for Valentine's Day, if you will pick out a marriage book for Valentine's Day and say, I promise to read this with you, I'm going to guess that 99 out of 100 wives will go, I love it.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I love it. And we're not just pushing that, but that basically what you're saying is, yeah, a gift's nice. I mean, you can still buy some flowers and some roses or whatever it is, some chocolate. Gift's nice, but you're saying, I want to give you something extra for Valentine's Day. I want to give you a better marriage.
That's right. That is right. And I will just say to the men out there who do want to put a spark back into their intimacy, if you can figure out what it is that your wife really needs and loves from you, then she will more readily reciprocate that need to you, if that makes any sense.
I understand it.
If she, like I mentioned earlier, if she needs lots of touch and affection, you make sure you're giving her lots of hugs and back rubs and with no strings attached. If she loves you to do things for her around the house, I mean, you knock yourself out sweeping the floor and taking out trash and loading dishwashers, whatever it is. You figure out what it is that she responds to the most, and I think that might reignite some spark there.
There you go. That's good wise advice from Lee. Yep. Guys, take note. Take note. Thank you all for listening. We always love feedback on our podcast. We are honored you joined us today and hope that you'll come back and hang out with us again next week. And
well, we will talk about Valentine's
Day. I'm excited about that. Yes. Romance. I've got a couple things coming for you already.
Nice.
Yes, I'm ahead of the game. Y'all have a great day. Talk to y'all later.